Do you want me
Welcome back to our live webcast from the floor of the Washington, D.C. Auto Show. And joining me right now is Jim O'Donnell, the president of BMW North America. Great having you here with us.
Nice to be here. My first time at the Washington show.
My first time as well.
Oh, well, okay.
But this isn't so much a product-focused show. This is much more a legislative-oriented one.
Yes, I mean, I think it wouldn't be such a big show if it weren't for the fact that it's in Washington and that the government are in the process of making some very clear rules for the auto industry going forward.
What are
and of course a major shareholder as well.
So what are you focused on that's coming out of this town these days? What are the legislative initiatives that grab your attention?
Well, I think is the fuel economy standards, you know, where we're going to be. We know now, we think we know at least where we're going to be in 2016, but we really need to know where we're going to be in 2017 and beyond.
Sure, because you're almost starting to work on those cars.
Oh,
now.
Absolutely. I mean, normal gestation period is 7 years. So we need to be there now. We're overdue.
Yeah.
We're beginning to put pressure on through the Alliance to try and get the whole thing going as soon as possible. Mm-hmm.
And where do you see it going? I know that we've got certain people, especially the California Air Resources Board, saying, hey, you know, this 35.5, that's just getting started. We got to go way beyond that. And then others who are saying, look, let's go beyond it, but let's approach it at a way that people can afford to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're asking the manufacturers to make a lot of bets on different technologies going forward. And it's not just about North America. The Europeans have different standards. The Asians have different standards. So as a manufacturer, you're really struggling to know which one to bet on. And moving forward, it's got to be achievable. There's no good setting a gold standard if no one can reach it. Mm-hmm. And I think that the automotive industry has shown that when given a task, they will go for it. But it's got to be achievable. It's like anything we do in life. You know, if the target's too high, you'll abandon it from day one. And I think that the people in CARB understand that, and they'll come up with something that's sensible. It'll be progressive, but it'll be sensible.
We've got some questions here from you coming from the chat room. Jamie Coleman from Cincinnati says, how does BMW plan to promote the sale of diesels in the face of expensive diesel fuel and the premium price on diesel power plants?
Well, I mean, if you look at the diesel pricing at the pump, it's actually now below premium in most states. Well, probably all states, certainly any state that I visited. So I think that we've overcome that. And it was actually a blip when we launched our diesels at the beginning of 2009. That was one of the few times in history where diesel was more expensive than premium. So I think that now we've got back into a proper equilibrium where we're happy with the price of diesel. We would like the government to take off the 7 cents tax on it. But, you know, asking the government to reduce tax on a fuel at this point in time is not really going to get a very positive answer. You know, so we're realistic. We keep asking.
Asking them to reduce the tax is probably harder than asking them to raise it.
Yeah, just about. On the actual additional cost of a diesel, what we brought in when we launched our diesel was a surcharge that we thought fairly reflected the additional cost and technology that goes into making a diesel, a clean diesel, for sale in the 50 states in the US. Unfortunately, our consumers didn't agree. And then we recognized that. So coincidental with the Cash for Clunkers program, we brought in what we called an eco credit, which was basically saying, okay, an X5 was $4,500 more expensive. Here is an eco credit, because diesel is green. Diesel has got lower emissions. Diesel is fun. And I've got to say, since we did that, the consumer has gravitated towards our product. In December, we sold over 30% of our X5s as diesel. So we think that we've listened to the consumer. We know what they want, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
Will you expand your diesel offerings throughout your model lineup?
Well, that is under consideration at the moment. I think it's most likely we will do. We are looking at, for example, we are building a new X3 next year, which will be at Spartanburg in South Carolina, and we're looking at the possibility of putting a diesel into that. We're launching the new 5 Series in June this year, and we're reviewing, maybe we made a mistake in the original product plan and maybe we should put a diesel in there. And the next generation of 3 Series, we're looking at diesel there. And it's not just a question of diesel, it's then a question of what sort of diesel do you want to put in there? Do you want to put in a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder? So those are the sort of issues that we're wrestling with at the moment, but we hope to come up with an answer before too long.
One of the reasons, of course, you had to reprice your vehicle was consumers didn't want to pay the premium, but there's cost in making diesels meet U.S. emission standards. Are you able to get that cost down, and can you make substantial reductions in that?
No, we cannot. We can't make substantial reductions. And that's why we had to be clear in mind where we want to be moving forward. Do we want to invest in 4-cylinder engines, which will be different in terms of the requirements we have to do to reach the US requirement? Do we want to stick with the engine that's in the X5? That's the sort of things we're wrestling with. Mm-hmm. We have to make a business case for it. It has to make sense.
Absolutely, it has to, because you can't subsidize this forever.
No.
It just wouldn't work that way. And hybrids, what's your outlook on hybrids?
Well, we're just testing the water with hybrids, and we're going in at the top end. So we launched the X6 in December, and we'll be launching the 7 Series in the spring. And our logic for going that route is that, firstly, hybrids cost money, and we think that the people who are buying the top-end cars would be more inclined to buy those cars. And secondly, we think that, when you put a hybrid together with a V8, the likelihood is, in terms of dollars and cents, you'll end up with a bigger payback than you would if you had a fuel-efficient 4-cylinder car. So that's why we've gone that direction. But moving forward, yes, we think there's place for hybrid across our range. We're looking at it, and again, we need to examine the business case and see if it stacks up.
There's so much emphasis at this show on electric vehicles. What's your outlook for EVs?
Well, I must admit, I've been very heartened by the reception that we've had with the Mini E. The feedback from the drivers has been extremely positive. They're able to live within the mileage constraints. They actually use it as a vehicle of choice. When they have two vehicles, they think it's more fun, as well as being more economical to drive the Mini E. So the feedback has been fantastic. Another interesting thing is a sort of 100-mile range. That covers over 90% of most people who live in urban environments, daily requirements. So the range inside it, not such a big issue. Big problem was, storage. We had to take the 2 back seats out. We had no room in the trunk. Now our next generation, which we'll be experimenting with in 2011, will have 4 seats. It will have about 200 litres capacity in the trunk. And that will, I think, help us get more customers interested in it. We've also discovered that, hot and cold's an issue. If temperature's too high, too much of a drain on the battery and air conditioning. If it's too cold, starting up is a big drain. You'll maybe lose 20% of your range. So now we've got an intelligent system whereby you can, through your phone, indicate to the car that you want to switch on this preheating or pre-cooling, whatever.
While it's still plugged in.
While it's still plugged in, I'll take the source from the main power, without touching the battery, so the battery will be an optimum level when you take off on your journey. So that should help us going forward as well. And ultimately, the Mini E and the 1 Series were designed with a view to this ultimate, we call it a mega city vehicle. It's part of this overall Project I program. And that is going to enable us to launch Project I sometimes between now and 2015, not sure when, taken into account all the lessons we have learned on these 2 experiments. So we're quite positive about it.
You've learned a lot from the Mini E.
Oh, huge, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the business right now here on the ground today. How does January sales look for BMW right now?
Oh, I would anticipate January will be about 10% above last year. Personal view is that's a bit disappointing. If that is in line with the marketplace, I think that's disappointing as well. Feedback I'm getting from other colleagues is that, yeah, it's not as good as I thought. And then I think, logically, there were so many fantastic offers out there in December that if you were in the market for a car, why would you delay? So I think maybe we were too optimistic in thinking January would be substantially ahead of last year. I think we'll see in February and March, the end of the first quarter, where we think the market's really going. I think most people think it will be up roughly 10%. Optimists, 20%. I'm not in the optimistic camp. I think 10% would be quite happy with it.
Well, it's good to hear that it's up.
It's up. Oh, I will be up.
The arrows are pointing in the right direction.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Jim O'Donnell, thanks so much for taking some time out of your very busy schedule and stopping by to give a little bit of a chat with me.
Pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You bet.